Well, those bills, being signatories, those bills will be asking the question now if we've been able to, domesticate them and follow it through and through. By the way, those two reports you saw were reports we did, especially the first one we did last year. Has the situation changed now that we're talking about, the day which has the theme, the promise of technology, and this year the International Day of Persons with Disabilities will focus on the role of technology in disaster risk reduction and emergency responses, creating enabling working environment and disability inclusive sustainable development goals. Joining us to look at all of that to see if there's been any change whatsoever and any form of presence of government and these laws is David Anyeli. He's of the Center for Citizens with Disabilities. Good morning and thanks for joining us.
Thank you so much.
Well, it's really not too good that every time we get to maybe see you in the studios is when we have a day like this. One would have thought that, we keep the discussions, on. And from the last time, which is a year ago that we discussed, has there been any positive change so far on the issues raised by people like yourself and others?
Yeah, I must thank you for this opportunity to discuss disability issues. As we're discussing all over the world, disability issues are being discussed. Countries are measuring their ability to attend to the needs of people with disabilities in their country. Here in Nigeria, the situation, we can say, we are seeing there is possibility that our difficulties is coming to an end. I must tell you that the National Assembly has passed the Disability Bill, harmonized and adopted. It is called Discrimination Against Persons with Disabilities Prohibition Bill. We must commend Senator David Mark and the Speaker of House of Representatives, Right Honorable Aminu Tamboa, for their consistency in ensuring that even though the executive is playing lip service to issues of disability, they reaffirm that the rights of people with disabilities must be enshrined as a way of life here in Nigeria. We are looking at, right now, the bill is undergoing what they call cleansing for transmission to President Goodluck Jonathan. And I want to use this opportunity to request the clerk of the National Assembly to take appropriate steps to dispatch the disability bill to the president for his assent, because we don't want what happened last time to happen to us. Last time the National Assembly passed the bill, suddenly we didn't know what happened. The bill moved front and back to the presidency. Before you know it, it was
I recall then, because even we had Dr. Doyokupe live here in the studios, and we brought that before him, and he did say they were going to look into it and take charge. That was a year ago. But again, you gave some accolades to the National Assembly leadership of the two arms, but you decided not to do same for the executive arm. You said, well, why would you do that? What exactly is happening now that it is undergoing cleansing, in your words? Is there anything holding it back, just like the first time?
I can't really imagine, because the last conversation I had with on the bill with the actors at the National Assembly, they told me that the bill has been dispatched. I spoke with the committee, the clerk of the Committee on Youth and Social Development in the Senate. He told me that they finished their job. All the bill is waiting for is transmission to Mr. President. But, the protocol or the process includes that the legal department of the National Assembly will package the bill for transmission. It is this packaging which they call transmission, because when the bill is passed at the National Assembly, what they receive is the raw document showing how they voted in each of the clauses. Now, after that, they are going to bring up the bill and arrange it properly, so atomize it section by section for dispatch to Mr. President. And that is the stage where we are right now. And I'm still surprised why this process will take us such a long time, that since October 15th, that the National Assembly adopted the harmonized version of the Disability Bill, the cleansing is taking such a long time. That is why I'm pleading on the clerk of the National Assembly to look at the more than 22 million Nigerians with disabilities whose future depends on the passage of this bill.
How important is that?
It is important because with the passage of this bill, the issue of discrimination against people with disabilities will come to an end. In fact, the bill criminalizes discrimination on the grounds of disability. That bill makes provision for rights to education, right to health services. It criminalizes exclusion of people with disabilities in cultural, social, and political life. What that means is that the reign of exclusion of people with disabilities in development activities in Nigeria is coming to an end. Because, like you rightly mentioned, that when I was speaking, I didn't say good, claim remark about the executive. The problem is that if you watch President Goodluck Jonathan's utterances, either is in private or public discussion or in any form, he hardly mentioned people with disabilities. The question is, to what extent are Nigerians being involved in the transformation agenda of President Goodluck Jonathan? What that means is that the transformation agenda of President Goodluck Jonathan is not reaching people with disabilities. What you are saying is that there is no way this government will say that it's an inclusive government, that its program and activities, addresses the needs of all, without taking appropriate steps to ensure that Nigerians with disabilities benefit from it. As I speak to you, Ministry of Women Affairs cannot say in concrete terms the achievements on the lives of Nigerians with disabilities since inception of this democratic era.
Yeah, but we do know that, I do know that a couple of times I've seen people living with disabilities taking pictures with the Minister of Finance, the coordinating. I don't know if you're aware of that. We also know that only recently the CBN approved 220 billion naira for MSMEs, medium, small, and medium enterprises, micro, small, and medium enterprises. Beg your pardon. And I think that people with disabilities were also included. At least when it was launched in Delta State, we did see that people with disabilities were, a particular class of people that were specifically catered for in those funds. You don't think that these gestures are enough?
There's a difference between charity-based approach to addressing disability issues and right-based approach. Charity-based approach is that I want to feel good. I want to do my corporate, social, or whatever charity to people with disabilities. That's what I see. Without a legal framework, without a policy framework, you cannot sustain this picture taken with the minister. Because beyond taking picture, beyond having this meeting with them, without enabling policy that ensures that whatever government has earmarked for people with disabilities are used appropriately. Every year, my sister, there are appropriations. But the question is, to what extent people with disabilities benefit from it? Let me give you an instance, using the Central Bank of Nigeria. Do you know that Central Bank of Nigeria is promoting what they call financial inclusion, using the banking system in Nigeria, ensuring that the banks or financial, whatever, is accessible to all. Do you know that Nigerians with disabilities do not access banks in Nigeria? Access to banking halls and services is closed for people with physical disabilities, including the blind and the deaf. So what it means is that he is promoting financial inclusion on the paper. Anybody who don't understand the nitty-gritty of what he's saying will say, he's doing well. He has budgeted so billions of naira for all, including people with disabilities. The question is, how can you give a gift that somebody cannot access?
Because I think it's a big point you just raised, because come to think of it, they don't have an access different from the security we go through before we get into the banks. So if you're a wheelchair-bound someone living with disability, you can't actually get into the bank. That's what you're talking about.
Yes, it's visible. Every day, go to the road, interview anybody on wheelchair, interview anybody on crutches. They will share with you the type of pain and agony which they pass through in accessing their own funds. What that means is that if you give a check to a person with disability to go and pick money from the bank, he can't access it, he can't pick it. That is the situation we find ourselves. And they do it with impunity. Whereas Nigeria is a signatory to the UN Convention of Persons with Disabilities, which promotes access to public buildings.
There are a lot of people out there who consider people living with disability a burden. But probably they do not understand the kind of life that these people go through. Can you just shed some light on the kind of challenges that these people go through?
The reason why they see people with disabilities as a burden stems from our cultural attitude to disability. whenever a disability occurs, people tend to link it to witchcraft, to evils of the family, or any atrocity that the gods are paying back to individuals or the family that is involved. Living with disabilities, the struggle stems from the attitude of the public. The environmental challenges, that is to say, you want to attend or participate or use public space. You can't enter. You can't, if it is hall, if it is building, you don't have access. Even when you enter the building, you can't even use the toilet. And that is why you don't see young girls with disabilities attending schools, because they don't have access to the building, they don't have access to even to the restrooms. So the problem is that there is no policy framework. Institutionally, there is no institutional, backing that ensures that people with disabilities participate on equal basis with others. That is why they call them special people. You hear people calling them people with special need. And when they classify you as someone with special need, they've erased you from the system. That is to say, there is no solution to your problem.
Are you implying that you don't want to be designated as one with special need?
No, it's not somebody with special need. It's person with disability. Because there is no, when you classify as someone with special need, it means that there is no solution to your problem. So we should set you aside. Whereas it's a matter of understanding the individual in specific, what he needs for him to function maximally on equal basis with others. That is the issue. If I'm using clutches, the question is, can I enter? What do I need? If there is no ramp, you put ramp. If there is no lift, you put lift. That is what is done globally. If I'm blind, the question is, can I put my documents in Braille so that I can equally read? Can I have any audio of instructions or whatever you have, so that I can participate? Even to use the computer or whatever, there are softwares blind people can use, so they can use computer like others.
Now, whether or not because you've said that when we have a legal framework, it will mean that some of these things that we're agitating for will become justiciable. But then you also know that because of how we've lived, because of possibly our cultural ingraining, most of the structures that we have were never built that way. And you'll find out that a lot of companies, governments, institutions as well, we might have to restructure or remodel, to be able to accommodate some of these things. It's not going to happen overnight, is it?
That is why Lagos State have given a moratorium of 5 years since the ascent of Lagos State Special Purpose Law, asking all citizens, public and private, to ensure that their products and services are designed in such a way that people with disabilities will benefit. And it doesn't cost up to 1% of the total cost of the building to readjust it to be disability friendly. It has been done in America, it has been done in England, it has been done in Australia, in other countries. So Nigeria must not be an exception. When we travel abroad, when we see people with disabilities, joining, accessing public facilities, all of us are happy. But why can't we duplicate it here? So these are the issues. We must begin to behave, act, do our work in such a way that it will promote inclusive development. That is what it's all about.
When you talk about inclusive development, one other issue we should also look at is, we're getting into an election year, 2015. Perhaps we should also look in that direction. Has INEC, as a body and electoral umpire, been able to, incorporate an inclusive system that will also bring in those people living with disabilities to participate in elections?
We're engaging Professor Atehuri Jega at different fora, drawing his attention on the need to open space for people with disabilities to participate in the 2015 general election. We tried it in 2011, we struggled so much with him. But what I discovered that the INEC doesn't have the political will to ensure that people with disabilities participate, in the 2015 election. The reason is not just too far. The Electoral Act 2010 as amended is silent on opening space or the participation of people with disabilities in the electoral process. It only made mention of the blind, how a blind person can access, but is silent about how a physical challenge and the deaf will equally access the electoral, will equally participate in the electoral process. So what that means is that without enabling legal framework, INEC may not be bound in doing what they ought to do. The approach to addressing disability as of today is on charity. That is to say, to what extent can we do, what can we do to support them, is not supported.
Have you